Most people, in my opinion, have likely fallen into one of two extremes during the COVID season. There's one very positive extreme of those who are continuing to walk with God daily and trust God daily and depend on His presence daily and feed on His word daily, and they're growing in intimacy and they sense His calling and they're directed by His presence, and there is a very real, very powerful, very present entheos, the enthusiasm of the Lord, and I see that in some people. Tragically, though, there is another extreme. And just based on human nature, what I know about people is we don't drift toward discipline, we don't drift toward health, we don't drift toward good decisions, we drift toward complacency, we drift toward apathy, we drift toward self-centered attitudes. And unfortunately, when people are now sometimes disengaged from the physical presence of worship in the corporate view of the church, they may start out at church online for a little while, but then wane and the weather gets nicer and people start going outside and they start drifting, and suddenly bad habits set in and the good disciplines go away, and rather than being filled with the presence of God, they're filled with fear and doubt and a loss of joy. And where'd my purpose go? And what am I supposed to do? And what once was a vibrant, passionate calling from God has been replaced by comfort. Which best represents you? Entheos, calling, purpose, passion, spiritual enthusiasm, or comfort and complacency? You walk with His presence daily. You trust His goodness daily. You worship Him daily. Not out of duty, but out of delight. But thanks be to God who delivered me from sin and death. Restore to me the joy of my salvation. There are two types of people. There are those who let their circumstances, COVID-19, fear, panic, anxiety, influence their posture, their heart, their own spiritual temperature. And there are those who let their enthusiasm, born out of a very real presence of God, influence their environment, dictate the mood of those around them, build the faith of those that they're with. There's two types of people. There are those who walk with God and dwell with God and trust God, and He empowers them with spiritual enthusiasm. And there are those who don't just lose it, but they leave it. Which type are you? If you feel like you've lost it, I understand. Sometimes people will ask me, how do you keep your passion all the time? And my answer is, I don't. So what do? I go back to that moment in college, and I think about where I was, and I think about who He is, and I think about what He did. Thanks be to God who delivered me from sin and death through Jesus Christ our Lord. And then I just go back and do what I did at first. I spend time with Him. I let His word strengthen my soul, correct my sin, and encourage me out of discouragement and build my faith when all I see is fear. And I worship Him, not for just what I see, but for who He is. And then whatever I do, even if I don't feel like it, I try to work at it enthusiastically with all my heart, not doing it for just some person, but doing it for my God. And that transforms something mundane into something meaningful. Whether you're serving and no one sees it, or you're worshiping and everybody knows it. Do it for God, but more importantly, do it from God. Because there's two types of people in the world. Those who let all the stuff on the outside determine what happens on their inside, or those who let the work of Jesus in their hearts impact the world around them.